This has to be the most bizarre proposal I've ever seen. They had known each other for less than a day, yet the man was pointing a gun at the woman, forcing her to make a choice, either marry him or die. The woman, utterly confused and terrified, burst into tears. Just a day earlier, she was an outstanding neurosurgeon, having grown up relying on her brother, a policeman, for support. Despite her young age, she was not only skilled in her profession but also known for her beauty and kindness. That day, the hospital assigned her colleague to go on an ambulance mission. However, when she noticed that her colleague was running a high fever, she decided to take their place, unaware that this decision would change her life forever. When she got on the ambulance, she realized there was another person on board, a handsome man dressed as a hospital orderly. His chiseled face, deep-set eyes, and strong nose instantly caught her attention. Though he remained silent, she was subconsciously drawn to his striking appearance. But soon, her sharp medical instincts kicked in, and she noticed that the man had an abdominal wound. She offered to help him dress it, but he firmly refused. Before she could process what was happening, she watched in disbelief as the man calmly stitched up his own wound without any anesthesia. Shocked, the woman couldn't help but feel curious about who this man was, someone who could perform such an act under intense pain. What she didn't know was that this man was the top enforcer for the largest Turkish mafia, a ruthless hitman who carried out his uncle's dirty work. His uncle, a respected businessman and philanthropist in public, was secretly the most powerful mob boss in the region. At the time, he was running for office, trying to clean up his public image. But just then, his most trusted security manager fled with a laptop containing incriminating evidence. If the contents of that laptop were exposed, it would spell disaster. Left with no choice, the uncle relied on his top enforcer, the man in the ambulance, to recover it. The hitman successfully captured the traitor, but the laptop was already hidden. And during the fight, he was gravely injured, falling unconscious. In a desperate move, the uncle discreetly summoned a reliable doctor from his hospital to treat his enforcer. However, by a twist of fate, the woman ended up replacing the original doctor. When she arrived at the makeshift surgery room on a farm, she was stunned. A man lay there, barely clinging to life, with a gunshot wound. To her shock, her assistant was a veterinarian. It was clear something suspicious was going on, but the man ordered her to proceed with the surgery. Sticking to her principles, she refused, insisting that she would not participate in anything illegal, and threatened them by revealing that her brother was a cop. It was only then that the man realized they had picked the wrong person. But it was too late to fix the situation. He had to go along with the plan, fabricating a story that his 14-year-old nephew had accidentally shot his father, and he wanted to avoid sending the boy to jail. Though skeptical, the woman eventually agreed to perform the surgery out of compassion. After calling her best friend to assure her safety, she began the operation. It lasted until dusk, and thanks to her extraordinary skills, she saved the man's life. But she wasn't thanked. Instead, the man locked her up in the barn, promising to let her go once the patient woke up. The next day, the patient hadn't woken up, making the man uneasy. He demanded that the woman find a way to wake him up immediately. Realizing that the man didn't actually care about the patient's life, the woman deduced that this wasn't his father and refused to follow orders. As she tried to return to her cell, the man shot the veterinarian in the leg and threatened to kill him unless she obeyed. Having witnessed his brutality, the woman had no choice but to comply. She was locked up again as the uncle didn't want her to see his face, and he feared her brother's police connections. His plan was to release her after handling everything. But as fate would have it, the woman escaped and accidentally witnessed the uncle committing a murder. With no way to save herself now, the man was ordered to take her into the woods and kill her. Despite her desperate pleas for mercy, the man was torn. Though he wanted to let her go, family duty took precedence. But just before her death, the woman screamed her brother's name, triggering something in the man. Lowering his gun, he slowly approached her and said, "If you want to live, you'll have to marry me." Why did he suddenly change his mind, and what will the woman choose to do? Do you believe in love at first sight? A man was deeply captivated by a woman the moment he laid eyes on her. Yet, engulfed in darkness, he knew he wasn't worthy of love. So he chose to let her slip away. But when fate brought her before him again, he had no choice but to force her into marriage, pretending to be a villain, all to protect her life. The woman, having no other choice, agreed. But she believed the man only wanted to use her against her brother, a police officer. On the way back, she cursed him non-stop. However, the man knew deep down that when he said he truly wanted to marry her, that was the honest expression of his heart. He had already recognized her in the ambulance, where he was torn, not wanting her to be dragged into the mess. When he realized his men had targeted the wrong person, he nearly beat them up. What he admired most was her defiance and integrity in the face of danger, which led him to obsessively look through all her photos and videos, wanting to know more about her. After her surgery, when she let down her hair and freshened up, her enchanting figure left him briefly mesmerized, so much so that they awkwardly locked eyes. When she confronted him about whether he was peeking, he put on an act, stubbornly claiming he was just checking if she was doing her job properly. But at dinner, he smoothly switched to a gentleman, offering her non-spicy food and even seasoning it for her. His cousin, feeling like a third wheel, didn't want to stick around. The man, concerned she'd be bored in the stables, even downloaded her favorite movies for her, though she scolded him for invading her privacy. He didn't mind her anger and even teased her while she pretended to sleep, sneaking into her house to bring her fresh clothes. Though he was met with more yelling, he continued silently protecting her in his own way. When he brought her home safely, his uncle was furious, accusing him of being too soft to deal with her and suggesting someone else handle it. Calmly, the man declared that he would marry her that very day to control her brother, the police officer who had been relentlessly targeting their family. Though his uncle warned him he was playing with fire, nothing could change Phil's mind. Meanwhile, the woman broke down upon learning the wedding was happening tonight, crying bitterly. Unable to watch her suffer, the man consoled her by saying they would only be a couple in name, which finally calmed her down. She tried to seek help from her future mother-in-law, but to her surprise, not only did she ignore her, but she even took her to pick out a wedding dress. Desperate, the woman attempted to escape by climbing the wall, but she was soon caught and brought back. Feeling utterly hopeless, she could only pray her brother would find her soon, unaware that the police station was filled with the man's informants. They had erased all traces of her and kept close tabs on her brother's every move. In the end, the woman was forced to pick out her wedding dress with the man and her future mother-in-law by her side. But in the fitting room, she discovered the back door was unlocked. Seizing the chance, she slipped away, flagged down a taxi, and fled. By then, the man had noticed her absence. As she approached her home, she saw her brother's car parked outside. She was just one step away from safety. But would the man let her go so easily?